Hello everyone and welcome back to Geordie Pride. Today on the show we've got someone very special, a musician, teacher, podcaster and a Geordie through and through, Taylor Payne. You might have heard of Taylor from the Pod on the Tyne podcast that talks about the trials and tribulations of Newcastle United, or you may have even heard him belting some tunes out in the local pubs around the region. In this conversation, we talk about everything we love about our little corner of the world, including the sights, the sounds, and the Northeast charm. And it wouldn't be a chat with a true local without a little bit of football coming into play. Taylor shares his thoughts on the football scene, past and present, from standout players to unforgettable matches. And the cherry on top is that we've got some great stories about big names like Alan Shearer, Jackie Milburn, and even mentions of Sam Fender and Little Mix's Jade Thirlwall. We were name dropping all over the place. But before I give it all away, I should probably just let the man speak for himself. So pour yourself a cuppa, get comfy, and join us for a good old chin wag. This is Geordie Pride, and here's our chat with the one and only Taylor Payne. You're listening to Geordie Pride, Voices from the Northeast. I'm Hayley, and alongside my cousin Angela, we're thrilled to bring you the stories that share the heart and soul of the Northeast of England. Each episode, we'll dive into the lives of extraordinary Geordies and those who call the Northeast home, exploring their journeys and celebrating their achievements. From the Tyne to the Tees, from the arts to the sports fields, we're here to share the tales of passion, resilience, and of course, Geordie Pride. So whether you're from Whitley Bay or Washington, Gateshead or Gisborough, or you're just fascinated by the spirit of the Northeast, join us as we natter with the best the Northeast has to offer. So welcome to the show, Taylor.
Hello, you all right?
Hello, thank you for joining us.
Oh, absolute pleasure. No problem at all.
So, do you want to start just by introducing yourself? Because from what I know of you, you're not only just a musician, you're also a fellow podcaster. But as we've already established, much more seasoned than us, a lot more of a professional. So, do you want to tell us a little bit about yourself and your journey to the point that you are now?
Yes. So I'm from South Tyneside, below the river. Like you say, I'm a musician, teacher, and I've hosted podcasts on and off since sort of 2010. I think was when we did my first ever one with me and my mate, basically sitting in the kitchen table recording us just talking absolute gibberish. So we've been doing it a long time, but it's kind of become a bit like a job recently, which is really lovely because it's something I never thought would happen, So it's been great, yeah. But music's a massive part of my life, and I've been involved in education for years as well. So it's another thing that I do. So yeah, jack of all trades, master, I think is the term that people use.
Sounds a bit like me.
And me.
We're all the same. So how did you get started in music?
So my dad, bless him, I have to say it was his 75th birthday on Wednesday, so I have to give him a shout out.
Happy birthday, Dad.
Happy birthday,
Happy birthday,
Taylor's
Douglas. Dad. Happy birthday, Douglas, but stop milking it, it's finished now, that's enough. He was, when I was a kid, all my most vivid memories of being a kid, being under the age of 10, tend to be sort of driving around in the car with me dad, listening to tapes and listening to the Beatles and listening to the Stones and the Kinks and the Who and Jimi Hendrix and Led Zeppelin and all that, and just sort of loving the sound of the music and listening to the singers and Queen, obviously. And that was kind of where I started, just singing in the car alongside him, And I remember him one day just going, "Oh, you've got a canny voice, you haven't you?" And I thought, "Oh, right, okay." And it was sort of through that. And he's a musician as well. He plays the guitar and he plays the mandolin and he sings and he's, he does a bit of everything. And he's been in bands for years. And I used to go and see him when I was younger. And it kind of came from that, really. But I think it wasn't until I got into my sort of teenage years that I started to take it a little bit more seriously. And I think it's when you find, when you find your music, which isn't your mum and dad's music, that's when it changes, and that's when you start to fall in love with stuff. And for me, that was sort of when Oasis came along, and that Britpop sort of the mid 90s stuff started happening. And that was when I sort of thought, actually, this is my kind of thing, because it sounds a bit like the Beatles and the Stones and all those bands that I already knew, but it just sounds a bit more modern and angry and, a bit more. All right. Okay. Sorry. The dog's getting involved again. Yeah. And then it was sort of like learning to play the guitar and realizing I wasn't good enough at football to become a professional footballer and putting that to one side. And my dad just said, look, there's a guitar there. There's some chords. If you want to learn, you can learn. I'm not going to push you. I'm not going to force you to learn. And it just went from there, really. And then you start to have little jams with people, you find there's another lad in your school who's got a guitar, and suddenly, oh, right, well, we're in a band now. So that's how it works. You find somebody else with a guitar and suddenly you're in a band together. And then it takes you 4 years to find a drummer. That kind of tends to be the way with bands. But it just went from there, really. And then, I went to college and I studied music at college. And then I went away and worked on cruise ships and traveled the world and did all that. And then came home and started doing gigs on my own around the pubs and the clubs and bars and restaurants and, outhouses and anywhere that would have us back gardens, anywhere that would have me on. And still doing it now, sort of 20, nearly 30 years later, I think. Yeah, so still gigging, still haven't grown up, but still doing it. Haven't got a proper job yet.
Have you got a favourite song, Taylor, that you like to do, or a favourite tune? Or?
Yeah, I think I love singing Queen songs. Freddie's like my favourite singer of all time, and I love Somebody to Love by Queen. I think that's just, I think that's like the ultimate Queen song. Do you know what I mean? It's got a bit of everything, hasn't it, in it? The backing vocals are amazing. The vocal performance from Freddie's amazing. There's a blistering guitar solo from Brian May. It's like, it's just got everything, It's got a big sing-along bit at the end. And I play that in all of my sets when I go out and do covers gigs. And it always gets the place bouncing. People love the song,
I think people just love Queen, don't they? And everyone kind of can sing along to it, can't they?
Really do, yeah. They've had a proper resurgence as well, haven't they, over the last sort of 10 years or so, with the film coming out and all that. I mean, they never really went away, did they? But I think now we've got young people finding out about their music as well. And my son, who's 12, he properly loves Queen. And, I can hear him upstairs singing away to We Will Rock You and stuff like that. And, yeah, it's great.
Is he going to follow in your footsteps, do you think?
He already has. He's got a band, right? I was sitting with him one afternoon, right? We were sitting having dinner, and I went, "What are you doing at the weekend?" And he went, "Oh, I've got a gig." I went, "You've got a gig?" And he went, "Yeah, I've got a gig." I went, "What have you got a gig doing? Doing what?" He went, "Oh, I'm singing and playing percussion." And I went, "Where's that come from?" He went, "Oh, me and my friend Lucy from school, from junior." By the way, like he was like 11 at the time when he said this, and they've started this duo up, and they do songs. And she played the ukulele, and he sang, and she sang, and they harmonized together, and it was amazing. And I went and saw them, and honestly, like it was a dusty room that night. I was sort of like, oh my god,
and, that's so lovely.
Honestly, they're lush, and they're so lovely together. And now they're going out and doing buskers nights, and they go and do little gigs here and there. And I was out with him on Monday at a buskers night in South Shields, and he's now playing the guitar, and she plays the guitar, and honestly, and the harmonized, and they do like Fleetwood Mac and stuff like that. And honestly, I'm not saying this because he's my child, but they are really, really good. To the point where I'm starting to get slightly worried that someone's going to.
Do you think we'll get together
though? He's actually got up and sang with my band. He got up and sang "Dancing in the Dark" by Bruce Springsteen with my band at a gig in the summer. I couldn't hide my joy. It was just, I was beaming from ear to ear for the whole thing. But I love it. I love it. And it's like all coming full circle. It's like 3 generations, because I was on stage last night with my dad. He was playing the mandolin and I was singing and playing with him. And then I've got the little one following as well. So it's, yeah, it's all coming full circle. Like,
so lovely. I've seen my daughter's 12 as well, and she's got her music taste is so much better than mine. Like, God knows what I was listening to at that age, but she's very much like that, like AC/DC, Queen. She loves Queen, and she was talking to a lad at school, and he was asking her, and he was just like, he was looking at her like, what are you listening to? And she was like, I think you need to look at your musical tastes, sir.
Yeah. That's it. It's weird, isn't it? Because I think we do go through that period where we only really listen to what our mum and dads listen to, or what's on in the house, or what's on in the car, and then you suddenly just sort of find stuff, don't you? And because you find one band, you find another band, and then you find another band, you find another band, and then somebody who you know will go, "Have you heard this?" And then you'll look at that. It's a lot easier for kids now with Spotify and all that, because I never had that. I had a tape off somebody from 2 schools over. Someone's got a tape of the new Oasis album, and it would go around the class, and we'd borrow it. I'm not advocating piracy at all here, but that's just the way it was.
Can you remember when you used to have the charts on a Sunday, and then you got your tape out and you would put it
in, record
it,
and you try and press pause before the DJ started talking at the end, wouldn't you?
The good old days.
Yes, I remember that very well. Yeah, brilliant.
The tape in the car, mint.
You mentioned Queen, Taylor. I've actually got a cool story about Queen. So I'm very jealous because my dad went to see Queen at St James's Park when they were there. I don't know what year it was. See, there you go. Perfect. I knew you'd know. It's amazing. I
know loads of people who went to that. Everyone I know seems to have been at that gig. Oh, I saw Queen at St James's Park in 1986. And you think, no, you didn't.
So jealous.
You liar. Yeah.
Do you know who gave him the tickets? The tickets to Queen?
Go on then.
Do you know this, Angela?
No.
You might not. It was Jackie Milburn.
Was it?
Now that is a claim to fame.
I think I'm more impressed by that, to be honest, than I am.
That's how we knew Jackie Charlton and all of that, because they used to play football in the back streets.
So we're from Ashton, so we knew the Charltons and the Milburns growing up. So, but my dad was a car mechanic, and he used to look after Jackie Milburn's. Hi, George.
Hi. Knock it off. Come here. So I'm sorry.
He's getting jealous.
What he's done is he's smacked one of his toys under the couch, and now he's annoyed with it. So he's chasing. He's barking at it to try and get it to come back. Wait, sit down. Sit there.
George, we're in a recording. Come on.
So sorry. I'm so sorry. Yeah, watch. Go on. Bugger off. Out there. Go on. Sorry about that.
But so my dad used to look after his car, and then as a thank you, he gave him tickets to go and see Queen at St James's Park. Lucky bastard.
Yeah,
that's amazing. That's incredible. I've got a Queen story as well, which is quite cool. It didn't happen to me, but it happened to a mate of mine. So I'm in a band called Four Worried Men, who've been going. This is weird because Four Worried Men were the first cover band I ever saw when I was 17 years old in a pub, and they were going then, and they're still going now. But now I'm the singer. So it was. So when I was 17, I wandered into a pub called the Turk's Head in South Shields. It's not there anymore. It's a block of apartments now. And sort of stood at the bar and went, "Can I have a bite lager, please?" in my best lower voice, trying to get served. And there was a band on, and they were brilliant. I really enjoyed them. I thought, these are so cool. They play some great stuff. And then about 10 years ago, I got a phone call off the guy who played the keyboard in the band saying, "Would you like to join the band? We need a singer." And I joined, and then, So anyway, I got off the track there. The Queen story, the keyboard player in question, David Chapman, fabulous musician, wonderful, played all over the world with loads of different bands and stuff. He was on holiday in, I think it was Tenerife, or it might have been Lanzarote, and he was sat in a bar. And at the time, me and him were both in a Queen tribute band called Magic, a Kind of Queen. And he looked down the table, and his missus said, "Doesn't that bloke down there look like Roger Taylor out of Queen?" And they both went, "It does look like him, doesn't it?" "Yeah, it is." And then as the night went on, they kind of heard him talking, and they realised that it actually was Roger Taylor out of Queen. And he was literally sat sort of 2 chairs down from them in this bar. So obviously Dave went over and said hello, told him he was in a tribute band. Obviously Roger Taylor didn't really care about that, but they sat and had a chat for a good half an hour, and I was like, wow. And then he sent me the photo saying, look who I've just met. I was like, oh, Colonel Sanders from KFC, brilliant. Yeah. Oh man, I'd love to meet somebody like that.
No, imagine just sitting and having a beer with someone from Queen. Or
I bet they've got some brilliant stories to tell you.
Absolutely. I once saw Brian Johnson in the Slug and Lettuce from AC/DC. He was just sitting there.
My dad knows him. My dad knows Brian Johnson. It's amazing.
Really looking like Brian Johnson. That's the best way I can describe him. He probably looked like himself. Yeah. But I didn't go and hassle him.
You look at all these famous connections we've got.
Yeah,
dropping names everywhere, aren't we? Just dropping names.
I know. I was like, what else can we drop in? Oh dear me. So we've mentioned a few bands and artists there, but is there anyone locally that you've been inspired by that's from the Northeast?
Recently, as I think a lot of musicians have been, I've been keeping an eye on Sam Fender and how he's doing, because I used to go and do a buskers night over at the Lowlights in North Shields years and years ago, and I'm convinced that I saw him there at some point, but I can't. My memory's quite hazy now. But he's done so well for himself, you know. He's just a local lad. He's come from a difficult background, living in North Shields, and I think it's quite nice, because I think it's the sort of thing that now my little lad's looking at and thinking, well, if he can do it, you know, anybody can do it. But yeah, Sam, and you know, we've got pretty rich history of creating musical royalty up here, haven't we? You know, and Sting and Mark Knopfler and
Ant Deck.
And Ant Deck. Musical royalty.
I
mean, Let's Get Ready to Rumble was a classic. I'm not gonna
exactly. We all know it.
Yeah.
I like James Arthur as well. I think I like his stuff at the minute.
You're right, yeah. He's got a very distinctive voice, him, hasn't he? Yeah. Is he Teesside though? He's sort of Teesside way, isn't he, James?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so.
And obviously you've got the lasses from Little Mix as well, who've done very well for themselves. One of whom I used to teach a while ago.
See, there's more names being dropped. I love it. Which one?
You know, Jade. I was a vocal coach for a little while at South Tyneside College, and she was doing vocal lessons with me. And the day she walked in, she opened her mouth, started singing, and I went, well, you're clearly a much better singer than I am. So there's literally nothing I can do to teach you anything. You don't need me. So I used to just accompany her on acoustic guitar, and she would sing and go through her scales and all that. And she was, you know, she wasn't Jade from Little Mix. She was Jade Thurlow from Shields at that point. But she was always a lovely lass, very softly spoken, very shy. And then what a lot of people didn't know was that she did grade 8 vocals and got the highest score in the north of England for grade 8 vocals. And
amazing.
Did all of the theory and the harmony stuff like perfectly, you know. She's like a proper musician, you know. I know
very well trained.
Pop artists tend to get this label where it's like, well, you don't write your own songs. Well, she does. Well, you know, you don't sing properly, it's all auto-tuned. Well, I'm afraid to say she actually she knows exactly what she's doing, you know. Yeah. So there's loads of people though, isn't there? There's like, you know, and then there's the less obvious ones like Jimmy Neal, who even though, you know, he's an actor, comedian and all that sort of stuff, I think some of his music's fantastic, you know. Big River, I never fail to get tears in my eyes every time I hear Big River.
I forgot about that one.
Yeah, it's a classic.
Unbelievable, isn't it? Oh, it's a tune and a half. So yeah.
So obviously you're proud to be a Geordie guy then, Taylor, I'm guessing. You're proud to have your roots here. Massively
so, yeah. Massively so. I mean, I've been lucky enough to work all over the country and abroad and stuff, and I think there's just something about the Northeast when you come back. I think it's different everywhere else, isn't it? People are sort of, they have like a warmth to them. And I just think anybody could kind of come and live here and be made to feel welcome. You know, it doesn't matter where you're from, who you are, what your background is, you know, your culture, your religion, all that. You can come to the Northeast and you can be made to feel welcome.
Everyone says the same thing, don't they, Haley? When we ask them that question, they always say that.
But do you think that's because of the type of place we are? You know, we're quite a gritty it's it's freezing cold here most of the year. Heavy industry for a long time, coal mines and shipyards and all that. And I think you just kind of have to be a bit more warm and a bit more receptive to people when you have that kind of environment. When you live and you work in those kind of jobs and those kind of industries. I think, the crack in the shipyards and the kind of the humor and all that sort of stuff it all derives from that, doesn't it? From the Northeast being such a, I mean, it's a beautiful place, but it's a harsh place, and it has been in the past. But I think it all comes from that. And I think that's why whenever anyone comes here, they're kind of surprised by how lovely it is, and they come in, they see the quayside, and they go up to the Northumberland coast and they see Bamburgh Beach and they go, wow, it's so beautiful, we didn't realise.
Yes, people's perceptions are very different, aren't they? Especially if you're living down south and you come up and then they realise we've got these beautiful beaches and countrysides and architecture when you go into towns and things. I think that people are quite surprised by it, really.
Yeah,
I think it's great. It's a Grey Street. I mean, Grey Street is just so beautiful, isn't
stunning.
it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I didn't even realise that you could actually go up the monument. There's like a little door on the side. You can actually go up the top. I only found that out the other week.
That's right. Yeah, you can.
Where have you been?
Grey's Monument.
No, I'm saying, where have you been?
Where have I been?
How did you not know that?
I didn't know. Yeah. And do you know how I found out? Somebody's TikTok who didn't live
there
here.
You go.
Well, that's the thing, isn't it? I think a lot of people who are, because since I moved away, so I moved down about nearly 10 years ago now, and loads of people from Yorkshire go on holiday in Northumberland and Newcastle and stuff like that. And they're like, oh, have you been here? And like rafted off a list of all these places. I'm like, no, I haven't. It's like, I think people sometimes do a lot more when you're going on holiday there, and they see a lot more than I actually do. But yeah, since moving away, I've missed it so much. It's such a lovely place. And I think there are these massive misconceptions about the Northeast, which is part of the reason why we're doing this podcast, to talk more about the Northeast and what it has to offer and what makes it so special.
And there's a lot of people out there who think we're all walking around with our tops off, with our black caps on and our pint of beer with our whippet by our side, just kind of still in that mode.
But it's,
the culture up here, the music, the arts, the theatre scene, all that stuff is like, it's brilliant. It's as good as anywhere in the country. You go to Manchester or Liverpool or anywhere. Live music, the bar scene, the clubs, all that sort of stuff. I just think it's so far north, and I think and also it's quite hard to get here. If you come on the train, it costs about 5,000 quid to get a ticket here from London, but it's like, it's such a great place to visit. I would, I'd recommend it to anybody who I speak to who's never been before. To say, well, why? Just come. It'll be great,
I think it's great that Robson Green's been doing like a series of like programs about like different places he's visited, because some of them on there you think, oh God, I didn't know about that place and I didn't know about that place, and actually it's quite canny.
That's it. I mean, there's stuff like that dotted all over though, isn't there? My dad's great for that because he's got a real interest in knowledge, interest in history of the area, and he'll tell you stuff about. You'll go, I've been for a walk today. Oh, where did you go for a walk? Oh, I was just like up the Bowes Railway path up to Berkeley. Oh, well, did you know that there was an old house there a long time ago? There used to be a commune in the middle of that field. And if you look on the maps, you can see the trench. And I'm like, how do you know this?
He's like a tour guide.
Oh, yes, honestly. He organises like walks, in like countryside walks for people. He's got a group on Facebook called iWalks. And him and about 20 people go wandering around the hills all afternoon, and he loves it. He's retired now, but that's what he does, and he keeps himself fit. And he goes,
mandolin,
and he plays the mandolin. Yeah, he takes it with him like a wandering minstrel going through the dales. He's 75-year-old man, and I go, where did you go today? And he goes, I just did a slack 12 mile. 12 mile. I haven't walked 12 mile this week. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's ridiculous.
I cannot get up the stairs some days.
Well, that's it. But
So you mentioned earlier about the podcasting. So, like, what was it that got you into podcasting? Because I think you said 2010. That's quite early on. I know podcasts have had a bit more of a boom lately. But 2020 is probably quite early on in the podcasting days, wasn't it? What made you start wanting to do one?
So I was listening early on to a couple of podcasts that I found through iTunes. And it was, Phil Jupitus, who the comedian who used to do Nevermind the Buzzcocks and stuff like that.
Oh, yeah.
So he had a podcast with his mate called Phil and Phil's Perfect 10. And what they would do is you would send them suggestions, and they would tear up all these bits of paper and put the 10 bits of paper randomly into a hat, and then just pull out the suggestions, and they'd talk about those things. And I used to listen to that every week, because the game was you would try and get your suggestion into the show. And I managed to do it a couple of times. But it was great. And it was every week, and you were waiting for this. I used to wait for this, and you wait, and then you're on the bus to work, and then you'd listen to the show. And then there was that. And then there was another one called The Football Ramble, which is still going. Excuse me, absolutely huge podcast. Now is a full-size business, but it used to be 4 lads sitting in a kitchen talking about the week's football. Me and my mate Steve Best, we used to both listen to The Football Ramble, and he texted me one day and just said, "Do you want to do a podcast?" And I thought he meant he does the podcast and I twiddle the knobs and do the faders, because I had a bit of a background in music tech. But he went, no, I want us both to do it. We'll like co-host it, and we'll talk about Newcastle. And I thought, wow, okay, this sounds interesting. So we started doing that in 2010, and we got picked up by one of the fanzines, a fanzine called True Faith, and we started doing it for them. And then it kind of, like the John Lennon thing of life gets in the way, while you're busy making other plans, basically. That sort of happens. And we both have kids, and we both get in relationships, and we both, things happen, and things stop. It's hard to keep things going when you've both got full-time jobs and all that. So we kind of stopped doing that. And then I had a bit of a break from it for a while. And then a friend of mine who I'd met through that podcast, a guy called George Colkin, who is a fabulous sports writer who ghost wrote Bobby Robson's books, and works for a company called The Athletic at the time. He worked for the Times. He texted me one morning. I remember it vividly. I was lying in bed with a really bad hangover because I'd been out on the drink the night before. And he rang me at like 8:30, and I looked at my phone and I seen his name, and I thought, who was this? Why is he ringing me now? What does he want? Like, I've never spoken to this bloke for about 6. Well, yeah, just piss off. I'll get it later. So I left it, and then he rang me again straight away, and I was like, oh, he must want something important. So I picked it up. He went, got a proposition for you. The Athletic, I'm joining them as a sports writer. They want to do club podcasts. Would you be interested in hosting it? Because me and Chris, the other writer, don't want to host it, but we want somebody who can kind of be the umpire and sort of back the points back and forward between me and him. I thought, all right, that sounds interesting. Let's give it a go. And he says, look, it won't change your life, but you'll get a little fee for each episode and all that, and it'll be great. It'll be good fun. Oh, brilliant. So we started in November 2019, and then January 2020 happened. I don't know if you remember that.
Oh, I don't know.
But it wasn't great fun. And I'll be honest, the being part of that show and hosting that show from my bedroom in my pajama bottoms on a Tuesday morning, pretty much got me through COVID. That was the thing that kept me going. Being a self-employed musician, I lost an awful lot of my income, like in the blink of an eye, and that show pretty much dragged me through, alongside doing sort of online gigs and things like that. The podcast, Pod on the Tyne, it's called, was the thing that kept me going. And I think it kept a lot of other people going as well. And that's not me sort of saying, well, I'm not trying to put more importance on it than it is, but the amount of people who message us saying, this is the highlight of my week, I've got nothing going on anymore. I don't go to work. I just sit and I look forward to your podcast coming out. And we do it now. We do it twice a week. And it is genuinely the proudest thing, the thing I'm the most proud of in my entire life. Like, I'm so happy with it. And it's quite scary at times, because you'll have somebody who'll come up to you in the street who you don't know, and they'll say, oh, I love the podcast. and you're like, who's this? And it used to be, oh, I've seen you playing the guitar and singing in such and such a bar. But now it's like, oh, I love the podcast. And if I go to a Newcastle game, you know, you get the odd person coming over and saying hello and stuff. And it's fabulous. It's really lovely. It's really, really nice. And I love doing it. And I hope we can do it for a long time to come as well. We just have to hope Newcastle keep getting in Europe and being good. And then we'll be all right. We'll be able to keep doing it. Yeah. But I love it. I love the connection it gives you to people, you know, the listeners and stuff like that. It's you know, I know you guys are sort of just starting, and you'll find that out as you go. The more people who listen, you kind of have the same people come back again and again and again, and they recommend it to people, and then, you know, you kind of build your audience like that, and it's lovely. You know, it's really nice, especially if somebody comes and says hello and says nice things. You still get people who say horrible things as well, but we just ignore them. Not making it for the negative mind, am I? So. Yeah.
And that sounded like it was meant to be at the time, and it got you through COVID.
Oh yeah, I mean the timing was just was perfect, you know. I don't know what I would have done without that, to be honest. I think I struggled with it a lot, COVID. I think I'm quite a social person. I like being out and about, and I've spent the majority of my adult life in pubs. Not that sounds bad, doesn't it? Working. I mean working. I don't mean just on the sauce. But when you go from being out and about 3, 4, 5 nights a week to nothing, to sitting in the house, it's hard.
Yeah, it was strange for people,
it's a
wasn't
hard
it?
adjustment. Yeah. Yeah. So I'm so thankful for that.
Yeah, I bet. My husband listens to that podcast every single week. So yeah, he has it in the car when we're off driving. So I listen to it as well. And it's a great podcast. I really enjoy listening to it.
Thank you very much.
Would you, because obviously the main focus is Newcastle United, and football is such a massive thing in the Northeast. Why do you think that is? Why is it just feels so passionate, and you get so many people talk about the atmosphere. It's at St James's Park, put my teeth back in. Why do you think what makes it so unique?
I think the unique thing about Newcastle United is because we haven't had any success for so long, that I think people keep coming back thinking maybe this year, maybe this will be the year. And I think we'd be different as fans if we'd been like Man United and we'd won everything under the sun in the 90s or the 2000s. I think that success changes you as a football fan, I think you start to become expectant and almost entitled of like, well, we should be up there. We should be doing this. We should be doing that. I never expect anything with Newcastle. Always expect the worst. And well, you have to, don't you? Because you've had years of it. Even when we were brilliant, there was disappointment, I remember listening to the games in 96 and 97 when we nearly won the league, 95 and 96, losing the league in the last day of the season, bloody Graham Fenton scoring for Blackburn and ending our title hopes and all that sort of stuff. And it still hurts now. I was at the cup final 2 years ago and saw us get battered off Man United, and that still hurts now as well. It was brilliant to go, but I'd rather have gone and we won, But I think it changes you slightly when you do start to win, I think. And we're going to have to... It's going to be a funny one of how we deal with this over the next couple of years, because the ultimate aim for Newcastle now, obviously, is to win trophies and to challenge at the top of the league and be in Europe and all that. And it's going to be interesting to see how the fans deal with it, because we're not used to success. We haven't had it for such a long time.
I think so. And I've noticed a bit of a change since the takeover as well. I think there's a lot of, when you think about how far they've come since then, they were like near relegation and now look at where, but there seems to be a little bit of a disconnect, I suppose, that the expectations have suddenly got so huge, but perhaps the reality of the situation, people aren't just, they're looking at the expectations and not realising how far we've come from a couple of seasons ago.
Yeah, I can kind of understand people wanting us to be the best we can be, and I get it when mistakes are made and when people look and go, oh, this is so easy to fix this problem, or, why didn't we do this? Why didn't we do that? I get that. And I think there's also a lot of younger fans now coming through who all they've ever known is kind of Newcastle being half decent. So, you know, we're now at a point where my son will put the match on a Saturday, and if we're playing Nottingham Forest, he'll go, I will batter these. And I go, do you reckon, do you? Do you think so? Well, let's wait and see on Boxing Day, and we got beat 3-0. So I think you have to be careful, don't you? Because you can very easily get carried away with it, and you start thinking, oh, well, we should turn over Luton Town. We should do this. We should do that. It's the Premier League. Anybody can beat anybody on their day, you know. I mean, we're not going to do a Man City. We're not going to do a Man United or an Arsenal or a Chelsea. We can't. The game's changed so much now that we can't pump in billions of pounds and buy the best players in the world and instantly challenge at the top. It doesn't work like that now. It doesn't work like that now, and it never will until you know, if the rules are changed, then maybe it'll go back to that. But they brought in all of this financial stuff and financial fair play and profit and sustainability and all that, and it's very dry and very boring, and the majority of football fans don't really give two hoots about it. But if you tell them, well, it's going to stop you from signing a new number 9, then they suddenly start, everyone's an amateur accountant and everybody's getting the logarithm tables out in the spreadsheets, and they're going, well, I think you'll find we spent £13.5 million in April of 2015, you know, and it turns into that. And football's kind of lost a bit of its romance, I think, over the last 10, 15 years. VARs came in and it's robbed you of goal celebrations, and it's robbed you of those beautiful moments that you used to have. And I hope the people who are in charge of it realise what it's doing, because it's just turning the game into something that it shouldn't be, you know?
Yeah. And I mean, Newcastle have had quite a few bad VAR decisions against them. I mean, it goes both ways, doesn't it? Like,
a few good ones as well, yeah. It goes both ways, and it always will, you know. And they'll say, oh, well, the big teams get all the decisions and all that, but you know, it kind of evens itself out over time. But I just think it doesn't help the game. I watched. I went to watch the women's team a little while ago, and they were playing no VAR. And it was so refreshing to watch a game of football where you weren't constantly thinking, oh, there's going to be a check on that. Oh, well, he was offside. There's going to be a check on that. Oh, she was offside, you know. And it didn't happen, and it was so nice. It was refreshing. And they're playing at St James Park this weekend as well, aren't they, the Lasses? So,
tomorrow.
Sunday. Yeah, Portsmouth and the Cup.
Yeah.
And it's, you know, it's great. It's brilliant now going to watch the Lasses. It's really good fun, and there's a lot of young lasses who are now being inspired by those girls to take up football and play and be encouraged. You know, where I think when I was young and when we were young, the lasses didn't really play football. It wasn't the thing that they did. You know.
Yeah, I've got quite a few friends now that their daughters are really into football, and we obviously live away, so we don't necessarily get to go to see any of the matches, but some of the games that they play away are locally round us, and we keep trying to get tickets to just like let the girls see, because we've been to a couple of the main team, the male team's games, but just I think seeing the girls is something different. Like you say, it's a bit more aspirational for them, and I think the games are a little bit more exciting without that. Like watching the FA Cup, when they've not got VAR in, it just adds a bit of excitement.
And they've just been made full time as well, so they've gone completely professional. The women's team, you know, and that's some of those lasses. They were sort of teachers and police officers and, you know, coaches and all sorts of stuff during the day, and they've been able to leave their jobs now to play football for a living, like, you know, because of the new ownership have come in. They've given them that opportunity. It's wonderful stuff.
Brilliant. So who would you say your favourite player is of all time, Taylor?
I mean, you know, there's an obvious answer, isn't there? Let's be honest.
Don't say Shearer.
No, you can't pick Shearer.
I can't pick Shearer.
No. Allowed. He was very good.
So we know what answer that was.
Do you know what it is? I find it hard to pick a Newcastle player for that as well, because there's been so many that I've loved over the years. Like it's really difficult. But I loved David Ginola was sort of my hero when I was younger, you know. And
my mum loved him.
Oh, my mum still loves him. She thinks he's brilliant. he was just like nothing I'd ever seen before, you know. And it helped that he was the most beautiful man in the universe as well, because you just seen him and went, that's what people are meant to look like, is it? And then this, you know, I haven't got a chance, have I really? You know, but he came in and he was all flair and he was the most French person in the universe, wasn't he? And he was just like magnificent. And for those couple of seasons that he was here, when he wanted to turn it on, my God, he could turn it on. He was just so good.
Very magnetic, wasn't he?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Just personality, charisma, you know. Footballers are quite boring now, aren't they? And I might get a bit of stick for saying this, but they've had the personality media trained out of them, haven't they? And they come out after the games and they say the same things, and they don't really have any sort of charm to them anymore, really. But you know, they're athletes. They get paid millions of pounds. They need to be focused and all that. But you know, people like Ginola, you know, sitting on the back of the bus smoking his tabs and going down the quayside, and everyone else is drinking beer, and he's got a big glass of red wine. You know, he was just a different, just a different breed of player. I actually have to mention my first ever encounter with a Newcastle player was when I went to my first game in 1992. I was 10 years old. And Newcastle played Southend United on the first game of the season, and it was August, the middle of summer, so obviously it was pissing it down with rain. And I went up with my uncle and my cousin. We went to watch the game, and as we came into the car park at the front of St James's Park, there was one of the players was there. And we went, "Go on, it's one of the players. Get your programme signed." So I went over, and it was a guy called David Kelly, and he was an Irish centre forward, Irish international. And as he kind of came towards us, I went, "Oh, sign me programme, please." And he got his pen and he signed my programme, and he looked down, and I had been holding a can of lemonade at the same time as I handed him the programme, and I was just sort of starstruck, and he went, "You're spilling your pop." And I looked down and I had spilt the whole can of lemonade down my jeans. And he gave us my programme back, and off I went. And I was absolutely obsessed with him after that moment. And he was only there. That was the last season he played at Newcastle, and I loved him so much. There was a quote about him from Terry McDermott, who was the old assistant manager, who said he would chase a toffee wrapper around the pitch in the wind if you told him to, because that was he would just run and run all day. And we love players like that in Newcastle, people who run their socks off all day, you know. And that was what he did. He was my first hero. I loved him, and I was devastated when he left. I actually cried a bit when he left. I cried. Yeah, I mean, I was only 10. I'm allowed to, you know. But,
he was 25.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think that's probably why Anthony Gordon's so popular, isn't it? Because he just doesn't stop. He's like such a hard worker, and I think people have seen that. And they weren't so sure when he first came, but then they've seen how hard he works for the team. I think that's went down really well.
Yeah, he's great. He's brilliant, isn't he? He's such an inspirational player. He seems like a really good character as well, you know. I hated him when he played for Everton. I couldn't stand the lad. He was one of those players who turn up to James Park and you go, not him, I hate him. And then I remember him having a fight with Kieran Trippier and Fabian Schär one game against Everton. And then when we signed him, I went, I don't know about this. Is he actually that good? And then he came and I thought, oh my God, actually, we've got a proper talent here. He's brilliant. And he doesn't stop for the team, you know. He just keeps going and keeps going. He's a fabulous player. And he's still young as well. He's still got, you know, he's got years to develop. He's going to be brilliant.
Yeah, I think so. I think he'll be a big part of the team moving forward. We mentioned before about the takeover and like the benefits that's given to the women's team, and in particular as well. Do you see that the change in management and the ownership of the football team shaping the region in any other different ways? Like, do you think it'll have a bigger effect than just the football community?
Well, I think that's down to them, isn't it? I think if they engage, which they have done so far, you know, they are involved in the city centre and stuff like that. The Reuben brothers notoriously own, about 50% of Newcastle. I think now. I think they own the race course, and they own a few buildings in the town centre. They are there. It depends on how they go about it, though, because I think that they're involved with the foundation, they're involved with the food bank, but there is a chance to get involved in the wider community, and I would like to see them do that. There's lots of projects and lots of areas in Newcastle that still, suffer from really awful levels of poverty, and there's kids out there with very, very little, and I think if we can find a way of the football club becoming a community centre and becoming a community hub and being part of that, then I think that's what I would like to see. The football clubs, they're businesses, of course they are, but they are central to the community. And I think for a long time we had a football club and a football club owner who didn't really care that they were in Newcastle, that they were in the Northeast. Mike Ashley didn't have any interest in the people of Newcastle, didn't have any interest in the fans. But I think this ownership, hopefully, with Amanda Staveley there, she was from North Yorkshire originally, and she's got lots of family up here. The Reuben brothers have got lots of money invested in the area. I think hopefully they'll do that. I think there's parts of this region which desperately need help, and if the club can be seen to be engaging with that, then that's brilliant.
Yeah, I hope so too. I think there's a big opportunity for them there to do a lot more outside the football club, and I hope they do. I hope they do it in the future.
Yeah, that's it. I mean, anything that a club does will cost money, and that's where that's what we have to think about. They're not going to just throw money away because they are a business at the end of the day. But if they can engage, the engagement is the first thing. Go into the schools, go into community groups, go and see people. And I know the foundation do a lot of this work, and they do it brilliantly and admirably, but they are hamstrung by the amount of money that they have to play with, So it would be fabulous if the club were out there, visible, part of the community, central, pushing, driving Newcastle forward. That would be brilliant. I'd love to see that.
Yeah. Good. So before we get into a little bit of a quick fire round to finish off.
Hang on, I need me inhaler.
Well, you've got preparation again. One last question is what does Geordie Pride mean to you? How do you think you embody that? I
think kind of like what we were talking about earlier on. I think being able to say to anybody who comes into Newcastle from the outside and saying, this is who we are, this is what we're about. Everyone's welcome. We might seem quite sort of bawdy and harsh on the outside, but really we're really sort of warm and lovely and gentle people. We just kind of have to put up this facade, don't we, where we have to act tough and all that sort of stuff, but we're not really. I mean, Geordie Pride, it's quite difficult to talk about it, isn't it, without becoming cliche? It's quite difficult without going down the, the fog on the Tyne and the, and all that sort of stuff. But it's more.
Folk, aren't we?
You what?
We're canny folk, aren't we?
We are canny folk, absolutely. I say to everybody, if you've never been, just go once and see what it's like, and I guarantee you'll come back. I guarantee it. You'll have a great time. You'll be looked after. The food, the restaurants, the bars, the live music, the culture, everything, the art. It's great. It's a wonderful, wonderful city, and I don't think I would want to live anywhere else. I've been all over the world with work, and I've never found anywhere like it. I've never found anywhere. The nearest place I can think to it has been Glasgow, and I think because we share a lot of the same traits, industry, shipbuilding, working class, all that sort of stuff. And I think Glasgow's quite similar to Newcastle, and I think they get that. I think when you go to Scotland and they hear they hear your accent, they go, you're English, but you're okay English. Do you know what I mean? and they don't mind you so much. We've been dealt a bad hand over the years by successive governments and all that kind of stuff, and we keep coming back. I think we're resilient people. I think we're strong. we have been through some shit over the years, and we fight back every single time we fight back. Our industries change, our where people work changes, and I don't know, we're still producing amazing people all the time. There's still such good stories coming out of the Northeast, still wonderful businesses, all this sort of stuff, and it's such a vibrant place, and I think it's getting better all the time, and I can't wait to see what it's like in the next 30 years.
Yeah, I agree. You can't knock we're down, and we're only getting better, I think.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
Strong, resilient people, aren't we?
Yeah. Absolutely, yeah. 100%.
Okay, right. So.
Oh, it's just quick fire, is it?
It is,
yeah.
yes.
So answer just the first thing that comes to mind.
Right. Attending a live gig or a live Newcastle match? Oh.
It depends who the gig is. Because if it was like, if it was Steps, then probably go to Newcastle.
Let's say Sam Fender.
Yeah, go to Sam Fender.
Next one. Favourite music venue in Newcastle?
City Hall.
I love the City Hall.
It's just there's magic in that room, man. I'm sorry, but the amount of people who've played there, like, it's just a special room. I'm very, very, I don't believe in anything mystical or weird or, ghostly, but I believe rooms have memories, and I think that room has a memory. So
yeah, definitely. It's magical, that one.
Yeah. I think you've answered the next one, because my next question was going to be, who's your all-time favourite Newcastle player? Not sure.
Well, it's Alan Shearer, isn't it?
Oh, Ginola, as we're forced
It is. I mean, it is Alan Shearer. It is. I think it is for nearly everybody. But
I know, if you asked me, I would say exactly the same. I don't think I could change from Alan Shearer.
I've been really lucky to work with him a few times, and I've met him a couple of times, with the podcast. And he writes for The Athletic, so he's come and done our live show. Last year we did a live show at Gosforth Civic Theatre in October, and he came and he was on the stage, and I just sat next to him, just quietly shitting myself for the whole thing. But before that, I got George, one of the other guys in the podcast, sent me a message and said, we're going to the Football Writers Awards at Slady. What was it? Slady Hall? Ramside Hall somewhere. Ramside Hall. Would you be up for coming? I've got an extra ticket. I went, oh yeah, great, I'll come. So we went in and we walked through, and we went through into the bar at the back, and George went, oh, we're through here. And we went into this other section, and there's all these other people in there. And then I turned, and Alan Shearer's walking towards us, and I nearly vomited. And George said, oh, by the way, Alan's sitting on our table tonight.
Oh, God.
And I was like, oh no.
I think I would just collapse on the spot.
Oh, no. And, I was excited, but also terrified at the same time. So as we walked through into the main room, and we sat down at our table, and just the way it worked out of the order we were in, he ended up sitting next to me. And I just didn't know what to do with myself. It's like I'm just fangirling internally, like
sweating.
Just sweating, yeah. Like I'm wearing a tuxedo. I look like a penguin. It wasn't good. And about 5 minutes after going in, I hadn't said a word to him. He just turned to me and he went, do you want a drink? And I was like, yeah, I'll have a drink. Yeah, I'll have a drink, please. And he went, all right. And he ordered the drinks. And then I plucked up the courage to ask him about going to see Sam Fender at the arena, because he had been to see Sam Fender a couple of weeks before that. And that was it. We started chatting, and it was fine after that. And I really wanted to get a photo with him to send to my mum, because she loves him as well. But I didn't want to be that guy. Do you know what I mean? And he was getting bothered every 10 seconds by people going, can I have a photo, please, Mr. Shearer? And bless him, he took every single one of them. And I just didn't have the heart. I didn't have it in me to go, right, now we've done this, let's do the photo. I just thought, oh, don't be that pleb. Do you know what I mean? There's just no need for it. Yeah, sorry, that was the best quick fire answer ever, wasn't it? Oh, Jesus.
Oh, but to be fair, I mean, I've met him a couple of times, and he's just so down to earth, and just
he's great.
Just really funny as well. I do listen to the rest of football with him.
Yes. He seems to have come out of his shell a bit, hasn't he? Because I remember him on Match of the Day years ago. He was quite boring and quite straight.
Yeah, quite straight-laced.
That's probably the easy attempt to be like that.
And I think, now you hear him chatting away, and he's effing and jeffing and all sorts, and it's great.
Well, I have to tell you this. Right? I have to tell you this as well. I don't know if you guys have seen this, but this morning I had a little look on his Instagram, and I was scrolling through and stuff, and there's this little story about I think it's one of his podcasts he's doing with Gary Lineker.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, the rest is football. Yeah.
Aye. And he's on about when he stayed at this hotel, I forget which one it was. He stayed at this hotel and he said he woke up in the middle of the night. He said he heard noises. He thought, what the hell's that? So then he thought, what's that? He said, in the room, we've got a piano. And he said, he said he had to have a little sneaky look at this piano that was in like the lounge area and stuff. So he had a little sneaky peek in that. And he says there was this bloke on top of the piano giving this woman a one.
Oh my God.
I heard that on the podcast.
Which hotel was this, by the way? Just make a note of that.
Wow. Honestly, Gary Lineker's face was a picture. He just
That's
said,
not what you expect, is it?
Was he in a tune?
Unbelievable, isn't it?
Right.
Yeah,
We're getting sidetracked from my quick fire here.
I know, my God.
Yeah.
Right. Next one.
Go on
So, best signing under Eddie Howe.
Kieran Trippier. Kieran Trippier. He was the first one of the new regime. He's been the standard bearer of the team. He's an on the field leader. He's really important to the way we play. A lot of people would probably say Bruno Guimaraes because he is a fabulous footballer, but I think Kieran Trippier's been the most important. Definitely.
Yeah, solid, isn't he?
Oh, he's brilliant. Love him to bits.
Next one. Day out in the northeast, coast or countryside?
Coast. I love the beach. I love the seafront. I lived in South Shields for nearly 20 years. And I love that seafront. You know, I'm down there with the dog all the time, and I just absolutely love it. I'm a bit more inland now, and I really want to go back to the coast. I miss it a lot. Yeah.
So next one, most memorable Newcastle United match you've ever watched?
The Paris Saint-Germain game in the Champions League.
Amazing, isn't it?
Yeah, it was just like nothing I'd ever witnessed, and I was so lucky because I didn't have a ticket for it, and I managed to get 2 tickets in the resale.
Wow.
And I had been telling my little boy, I haven't got tickets for the game. I can't get us a ticket. I'm really sorry. But why don't you come to my house and we'll watch it, and I'll get snacks and we'll make a night of it. You know, we'll have a real proper lads and dads night. And he came, and I said, right, get yourself upstairs, and I'll give you a shout when the build-up's starting. You know. And then about 6 o'clock, I shouted him down and said, come on then. And he went, what? I went, get your shoes on, you coat. And he went, why? I went, because we're going to the match. I've got tickets.
Oh.
And his little face makes me feel emotional now just thinking about it. I've never seen him.
In my heart.
I've never seen him so happy all the way up on the metro into the ground. Obviously, that game happened. And he kept saying, this is the best night of my life. This is the best time I've ever had in my life and stuff. And I was just like,
you remember that forever.
He will because I remember going to massive games when I was a kid and stuff. And he'll remember that, and I'll remember that forever because I was lucky enough that I got to go to it with him, you know. And you know, we got the metro back, and I had to peel him off the ceiling when he got in to make him go to bed. It was like 11:30 at night, and he had to be up for school the next day, and it was like, get to bed. And I'm pretty sure he didn't sleep that night, and I don't think I did either, to be honest. It was just the best experience of being a football fan I've ever had. So, yeah.
Yeah, it was amazing.
And finally, what is your go-to order at Greg's?
Oh, what a question that is, by the way. How long have you got? Oh, we go all day with this.
Full menu.
I like a Mexican chicken baguette.
Oh.
I'm a big fan of that because it's got red onions on it, and I like red onions and chili jam. And I like a sausage and bean melt. I'm very fond of that. And Oh, I like the caramel custard donuts. If we're going for like a 3-course thing,
Yeah, let's go 3-course.
3
Definitely.
courses. So that would be sausage be melt to start, Mexican chicken baguette for me main, and I'll have a caramel custard donut for pudding. Thank you very much.
And what to drink?
Probably some carbonated, fizzy, heart attack inducing diet Coke of some kind. Like
Just
that.
to make up for all the calories for all the pasties in the.
Well, that's how I offset it. That's how I justify it to myself, you know. Yeah.
You and me both.
Yeah. I can squeeze the custard out of my mouth out with this donut, but I've got 0 calories and no sugar in my drink, so it's fine.
Oh, you're making us hungry. Amazing.
I've got a friend who works for Greggs. She works in the marketing department at Greggs, and at Christmas time she invited me and my missus up to the sit down Greggs that they had in Phoenix.
Mm-hmm.
We went on the first night, the opening press sort of preview night. We went to that. Sat down and it was, but there was loads of like influencers and stuff there, and I'm not part of that world, so I didn't know what the hell was going on. Everyone's getting up and taking photos at funny angles of their dinner and stuff, and I was just like, all right, okay. But it was great. It was really good fun. But they served us like a steak bake cut in half, and then it had like goose fat roasties and pan fried Brussels sprouts with pancetta and gravy, and I was like, all right, okay, brilliant.
I'm hungry now.
Oh, it was lush. It was great.
It sounds brilliant.
It was mega.
I hope to do it again. I'll be there. I'll be waiting in the queue.
Absolutely. Oh, it's well worth it. It's well worth it. I had said my miss, I booked a lovely table for when I want to take you somewhere romantic. Great. Yeah.
We're going
to be well happy with that.
Yeah. Normally go to sit down Greggs and Shields bus station, but that was a bit of a that one was a bit of a real trade. Yeah.
So before we say goodbye, is there anything that you want to share? Any upcoming projects or anything like that? And where can people find you online?
Projects. Well, I need to tidy the conservatory this afternoon, but I don't think that counts as a project. Is it? You can find me online at Taylor Payne Music, and that is on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok. Doesn't feel right saying TikTok as a 41-year-old man. It's not right.
Check you out.
Yeah, so I'm on there, and at Pod on the Tyne on Twitter as well, and check out the podcast on Spotify if you get the chance. Yeah, and apart from that, if you see me wandering around with a dog, that'll be me with a big golden idiot on the end of a lead. Just say hello.
Oh, lovely. Thank you so much for joining us.
Hey, no problem. Thanks for having us. It's been great fun. I've really enjoyed it.
Oh, good. Yeah, we've had a good night. I'd say, again, another conversation I could have probably half a day, and I'd still be going.
That's it. We need to continue this in the pub, I think, so at some point with a couple of beers. Yeah, definitely.
Thanks so much for listening. If you've enjoyed this episode and you'd like to help support Geordie Pride further, then don't forget to subscribe, share it with others, post about it on social media, or leave a rating and review. To catch all the latest from us, you can follow us on Instagram at Geordie Pride. Until next time, keep that Geordie Pride shining bright.